Lomachenko, and I'm going to really camp out on this because I have a lot to say about this whole thing, right? Lomachenko, Gervonta Davis has now once and again become one of the premier fights in a weight class in boxing. Lomachenko has shown immense longevity in his career to now become the champion again. Gervonta Davis has matured and become one of the most explosive. I mean, he's always been one of the most explosive fighters in boxing, but he's matured into one of boxing's most complete fighters. But there's still people that want Gervonta Davis to really step up to the challenge and fight an A-class, creme de la creme, top shelf guy. And there's a lot of people out there that think that Lomachenko, even now, could beat Gervonta Davis. Now, really and truthfully, do I want to see this fight? I think it'd be a great fight for boxing. I think it'd be a great event for boxing. I think Lomachenko would definitely, at this point in his career, be the best fighter Gervonta Davis has fought in his career. And I think Gervonta Davis should go on as a favorite because he's younger, he's stronger, he punches hard with both hands. He's a he can box too. He's not just a slugger or a reckless fighter. He's a complete fighter, right? So they do have some unfinished business. But I gotta be honest here, guys. I gotta be honest, and I'm gonna channel the 2016-27 BT here for a second. I don't think Lomachenko should really do Gervonta. I feel like if Lomachenko fights Gervonta Davis at this point in his career, he's doing Gervonta Davis a favor. And why do I feel that way? I feel that way because Gervonta Davis was a champion at 130 years ago when he was a younger fighter, when Lomachenko was in his prime, and they avoided that fight, right? So now the roles are reversed. Now Lomachenko's old, tanked in his prime. I just think if he fights him now, he's doing him a favor. So from the Lomachenko side of things, I don't think they should do the fight, but if they're going to do the fight, cool. Now let's talk about it. And let me know in the chat, guys. Let me know, who do you think will win that fight? Is there anybody that thinks that Lomachenko will beat Gervonta Davis even at 36 years old? Let me know in the comments down below. But as you guys can see right here, Gervonta Davis said that right here, this guy tweeted Gervonta Davis and said Gervonta Davis would never fight Lomachenko. And then Gervonta Davis said, he's after Frank. Let me get Frank first. So there you go. So he's saying that his next fight will be Vasyl Lomachenko. Now, as the great Terrence Crawford once eloquently stated, Terrence Crawford said many, many years ago, you better focus on your fight before you not make your fight. I don't think Gervonta Davis should overlook Frank Martin at all. I think Frank Martin is hands down the most explosive fighter Gervonta Davis has fought in years. He might be the most explosive fighter Gervonta Davis has fought, point blank, period. And say what you want, we haven't seen Gervonta Davis under them lights with the guy that could match him in any way in the athleticism department, right? Nobody's fought, I think, or the explosiveness department. Nobody he's fought qualifies for that, right? So he needs to worry about Frank Martin. But if he takes care of business and he beats Frank Martin, which he's expected to beat Frank Martin, I think it's a very interesting fight because you'd have a southpaw and southpaw matchup. You have Lomachenko, a guy that has elite footwork. I mean, some of the best footwork we've ever seen in the history of the sport. Gervonta Davis has punch power with either hand. So it could be one of those fights where, you know Gervonta Davis is going to give up early rounds and probably be down like 3-1 or 4-2 or something like that. And then I could see in a fight like that, 7th, 8th, 9th round, Gervonta Davis, find that big shot against Lomachenko and ultimately hurting him and knocking him out, after he downloads information. Both these fighters, I think the interesting thing about that potential matchup, if you're breaking it down, is that we always hear all this talk about how Lomachenko takes those first couple of rounds to dissect what his opponents are doing. He quote unquote downloads the information. But you know what? While I can sit here and say a lot of things about Tank and who he hasn't fought, I don't think I don't think Lomachenko's ever fought a fighter as smart as Gervonta Davis, and that includes Devin Haney. He's never fought anybody that downloads the information as great as he does. And I feel like Gervonta Davis doesn't get enough credit for his boxing IQ. I feel like Gervonta Davis doesn't get enough credit for the fact that he's able to dissect the patterns of his opponents very, very well. And that's why he's so consistent getting knockouts, So really good fight. I still do personally. I do feel some type of way about it because look, I'm gonna show you guys on screen, and I'm gonna say it like this: people need to stop acting like Gervonta Davis, and maybe not Gervonta Davis more so, but more so like Mayweather Promotions, Floyd Mayweather, Leonard Ellaby. People need to stop having selective memory and acting like they didn't steer him away from Lomachenko when he was champion. No different than Deontay Wilder when he won the WBC title against Tavern, and then Shelly Finkel said, "Oh no, we're not going to fight Vladimir Klitschko." Same principle, right? So this is from 2018. Mayweather says, "No rush to have Gervonta Davis face Vasyl Lomachenko." Now, I'll read you guys the quotes because I understand some of you guys don't like to deal with the truth. But here's what Floyd said in 2018 about a potential unification fight between Tank Davis and Lomachenko. He stated the following, and I quote, "Gervonta beat 3 undefeated fighters in a row. Now, I don't know no other fighters now that's beat 3 undefeated fighters in a row. And Lomachenko, he can fight. He can fight. One thing we're not going to do is knock a guy that can fight. He can definitely fight. But the same way you give it the same way you got to be able to take it." Now, we know that Rigondeaux was extremely small. So my thing is this. With all these young fighters, y'all calling out, "Oh, we want to fight Tank." At the end of the day, guess what? Tank has a promoter. Tank can come to me and say, "Floyd, this is the fight I want at the end of the day." But I'm going to say, "Tank, there's no rush. You're still young. You got a lot of fight left in you. You're only 22. I mean, if he wants to fight when he's – and now listen to this part. If you want to fight until he's 36, 37, he's got 15 years left. Okay. But if you rush and fight all the hard fights right now, you're not going to be able to make it to 38. There's no rush. If Bottom Rank is a top company in boxing, we're going to pull up the paydays of these different fighters from Top Rank and then I'm going to show what these guys should be getting and why they're being underpaid." I'd rather, yeah. So he went crazy, right? He started going crazy and saying that they didn't want to fight. It's all out there to be researched and brought up. But look, as someone who is part of a couple fighters' teams in boxing right now, and someone who is very interested in the management side of boxing, and I got my hand in it here and there. Really and truthfully, I understand why Floyd Mayweather did not allow Gervonta Davis to fight Lomachenko back then. He does got a point. He was 22 years old. There were still some things maturation-wise that they feel they needed to have, and that was their prerogative. And guess what? As much as I'm gonna hate on it, and maybe a lot of the box fans are gonna hate on it, it's paid off in a big way. Gervonta Davis has become one of the biggest box office attractions in the sport. So they do know what they're doing at Mayweather Promotions. But my thing is, it wasn't. Now, had this just been a 1-year ordeal, I wouldn't have had a problem with it. But this wasn't a 1-year thing. This is like a 2-3 year thing. And Gervonta Davis, not only was he not fighting Lomachenko, but he wasn't really fighting anybody else in unifying the division. He was fighting guys like Cuellar and Hugo Reeves and dragging them up. So that's where my problem is. My problem isn't with isn't with him, them allowing him to grow and mature. My problem was that, okay, if you weren't going to fight Lomachenko, then why didn't you fight Tevin Farmer? Who at the time, Tevin Farmer had a good buzz in boxing. Tevin Farmer was a guy, and it's funny to say now because Tevin Farmer ain't doing a whole lot in boxing right now. But Tevin Farmer at the time versus Tank was a very, very interesting fight. They had a lot of back and forth. So if you weren't going to fight Lomachenko, then a consolation prize would have been at that time Tevin Farmer. They didn't do that, and that's my problem is. So to continue on, right? Here this was in January, I believe, of 2017, so the year before. So Mayweather said, and I quote, "We're not rushing. We're not rushing. We're not thinking about Lomachenko. Lomachenko's with Top Rank. Let us stay where they were Top Rank. That's where he's at. My guy's going to do his job, and I'm going to make sure I do my job to my best ability so that he can get what he wants." There's no rush. You're young. We want to build that bank account. Be smart. Make the right moves. We're not looking to unify belts right now. We're going to be smart. We're going to move him and let him make money and let his money build. And when the time is right, we're going to take the fights we need. So now, of course, years later, and from a managerial standpoint, this is why the boxing fan of me and the manager side of me is like, look, we already know that if there was a time for the Gervonta Davis side of things to take this fight, it's right now. Gervonta Davis is at the peak of his powers. His mental abilities and his physical abilities are meeting up at the highest point. And when it happens for a fighter, that's called their prime. Lomachenko still operating at a very, very high level, but it's not the guy that people initially wanted to see him fight at 130. So I still feel some type of way about how he was maneuvered away from Lomachenko back in the day. But if I put that aside for a second, it's still a great fight for boxing. It's still a fight that I think it would allow Gervonta Davis to get a measuring stick against a guy like Devin Haney, because Devin Haney fought Lomachenko, and Devin Haney got waxed by Lomachenko, got a get decision against Lomachenko, got beat up by Lomachenko, right? So if he's able to knock out Lomachenko, it puts to bed some stuff that happened in Tank's career earlier, and it allows Gervonta Davis to have another feather in his cap above Devin Haney. So that's what I'll say on that. There is some unfinished business there. Lomachenko already seemed like he's halfway retired, because he did say after the Kambosos fight that he just wanted to win this title for his dad, right? Because his dad was what inspired him to keep boxing after the Haney fight. Now that he got that belt, I feel like from what I saw in the interview, he looked content